Well, hey, thank you, David, for taking a minute after the show today. I appreciate it.
Yeah, appreciate being here.
So let's begin our journey before we get into your good work by asking you this. 4 years ago, we were trying to figure out this pandemic. How are we going to get through it? And I know we're getting into COVID fatigue. I know we're all getting tired of talking about it, but it was such a big deal. How did you ultimately survive that time period? And how did it affect the way that you do business today?
Wow. What a great opener, Joe. No, really, it was that time period that got us into this UVB business. We have, as a company, we have the technology to create products anywhere pretty much on the light spectrum. And we met some doctors out of LSU that were doing a clinical trial with people that were critically ill with COVID in the ICU on ventilators. Not good news, as you know, at that time for an awful lot of people. And they had a clinical trial going, treating people with UVB light, which is the best part of sunshine. We can get into the details of that in a minute here, but
Sure.
UVB light only, and their success rate was 60% reduction in mortality.
Wow.
I, when we were talking to them afterwards, we built some devices for them. And so they said, look, there's people walking around New Orleans today that would have been long gone without UVB light. And
Wow.
so they also, in the discussion, as we get into it further, they said, look, we already know that people with MS, as an example, obviously a very serious disease. They said, treating them with UVB, we already know that we can probably halt, if not put MS into total remission.
Wow.
And so we got very excited about all of this.
Yeah.
And now that particular side of it is a long journey, as you know, going with the FDA and getting the clinical trials, and very, very costly and all the rest of it. But we said, okay, we could help people immediately with UVB light in all kinds of ways. And so then we started down a path of the research and the development of what we could do with this UVB light if it was put together in a really, really sophisticated way. We have in-house engineering, and we immediately then assembled a really high-end medical advisory board. Just one example, Dr. Bruce Hollis from the Medical University of South Carolina in Charleston, 46 years of vitamin D research. That's what he's done in his
Wow.
career. This is a guy that knows more about vitamin D than pretty much anybody in the world. And he's on our medical advisory board. So we put all that together to say, let's create this product that would help the average person on a supplemental basis. And so this creates vitamin D is one of the biggest benefits, and then there's a bunch of others as well, but vitamin D is one of the biggest.
So let's get to the heart and soul of what you do on a daily basis. I'm going to put you in front of a bunch of third graders at career day, and one of the kids is curious and says, "Hey, what do you do for a living?" How do you answer them?
The, the best answer to that would be, like the Cliff's Notes version, let's call it, would be, vitamin D is the most important supplement that we have. There are almost 37 trillion cells in our body, and almost all of them have receptors for vitamin D. In other words, all those cells in our body are sitting there waiting. When am I getting my vitamin D?
Yeah.
And if we leave them waiting too long, bad things are going to happen in the long, long run. They'll happen in the short run as well, but bad things would happen in the long run. And so I liken it to this. Um, I have the good fortune of having a summer home on a lake. Beautiful lake, about 25 miles long, a couple miles wide, but it's really unique in the sense that it's calm. There's very little wind. And so I love to water ski, and anybody that water skis knows that calm water on glass, flat water is amazing to water ski on. So you want a boat that's going to pull you, that's not going to create a big wake. So let me take you back to June 17th, 1995. I bought a new water ski boat. And I had had others, and I knew exactly what I wanted because this was going to do a great job of pulling the water skiers, but it wasn't going to create much wake. And there is a point to this story.
Yeah.
So, in any case, I pick up this new boat, and everybody in my family, my friends, all knew we got to tarp this boat. This brand new boat, we want to keep it new. And so at the end of every day, it gets tarped. And I have other neighbors that some of them don't tarp their boat. And after a year, 2 years, 3 years, pretty soon their boat starts to show a little bit of age. And after 5 and 10 years, it shows a lot of age. And the reason that I mention this is, that's now almost 30 years ago. Because it's the exact right boat for water skiing, I still have it. And it's my favorite to water ski behind. We've got multiple boats, but this is the one I like the best. And it still looks next to new because
Wow.
it's been tarped. And here's the analogy. If we don't take our supplements and eat right and get enough sleep and do all the things we know we should do, we can skip a day, a week, a month, and do all the wrong things. We can probably skip a year and it doesn't really show up. But we cannot skip 5, 10, 20 years. And that's really the key. That it starts, our body is going to start to show a bunch of problems. And, we don't have a check engine light on our body, but the check engine light for us is, all those cells are waiting for that vitamin D. And when they don't get it, eventually they turn on their check engine light, which in our body is you'll get a cold or the flu. And then later on, when you've abused it for longer, you'll have more serious things start to happen. You won't have as much energy. You won't sleep as well. All those kinds of things, and then long run, you get MS, you get Parkinson's, you get Alzheimer's, all those kind of things. And so I like to say to people, tarp your boat.
Yeah.
Like let's stay ahead of it. Noah didn't start building the ark when he saw the 10-day forecast. It's got, it
Yeah.
just doesn't work that way. So we just got
Absolutely.
to plan so far ahead. It's really, I like what Peter Attia calls the centenarian decathlon. I don't know if you've heard him talk about that. I
Yeah.
find that just fascinating. Like plan ahead for what you want to do. What are the 10 most, and you can have any number of things, of course, but what are the 10 things you really would like to do if you're are lucky enough to live to be in your 90s or 100 or more? What are the things you want to do? Well, there's certain things you better do when you're 20, 30, 40, 50
Yeah.
that ensure that you can do that. So
Yeah.
it's really playing the long game with your health.
So when you were in the third grade, what did you want to be when you grew up? What was your dream?
It's a good question. I wanted to be in business.
Yeah.
I I come from a farming family, but my dad also had businesses. And so I just assumed I'd always be in business. And where this became important, because I've been a serial entrepreneur, but when we discovered this and what UVB light could do, and that we had the technology that could probably put this together, uh, right away we realized, wow, we could be doing some really good in the world. And
Yeah.
so it's pretty exciting to get up in the morning and know that you're helping millions of people or potentially helping millions of people with their health. Um, we have both my co-founding partner, Scott Hansberry, and I have multiple examples of people right in our family and friends that have suffered from some of these diseases. Breast cancer is one that, you probably, I don't know if you can see that.
Yeah. Yeah.
October, of course, is breast cancer awareness month. And that's one that's so devastating. Well, they all are, but that's really devastating. And we're really close to it in a bunch of cases. And women in the US that are diagnosed with breast cancer average vitamin D level of 17 nanograms per milliliter. Now, for those that don't know where your level should be, there's a consensus that has continued to move up in terms of what level we should have. Right now, most researchers are saying at least 50 to 70. And those that I talk to, I like to ask them then, where do you keep yours?
Yeah.
Because I find that gets to the where I want to be. I want to be somebody that's got 46 years, and they'll typically answer, well, I keep mine at 80 or 90. So it's really 60 to 100 that we say that is a great range, and 80 being, really great to be right in the middle of that. So if you're at 17, you got trouble, and
Yeah.
and like I say, that's the ladies with breast cancer. Now, ladies that are above 60 nanograms per milliliter, 80% less incidence of breast cancer. Just one example. And many, many examples. There's literally thousands of research studies now done on those kinds of things that are much more devastating in the long run. And that's deficiency of vitamin D. It's just so important.
So take me back to the beginnings here. You have a groundbreaking approach to helping people, get rid of diseases and become healthier humans. How did this journey begin? How did it begin? And how did you kind of hit this molecular breakthrough that has become the product that it's evolved to today?
We, of course, we were starting with what I like to consider a clean white sheet. There's been UVB light around for 100 years.
Yeah,
And so the first thing we did was to say, okay, it's really sunshine that we want to capture. That's the good of UVB.
yeah,
Challenge that we have and why the dermatologists get excited in a bad way about being in the sun too long is the fact that natural sunshine is 95% UVA and 5% UVB, but your vitamin D comes from the UVB. So you're getting this much vitamin D at a time in the sun. So you got to try and stay there a long time to get your vitamin D. And then they get excited saying, well, that's longer waves and they go deeper in your skin and you're out there too long and burn, you're going to have all kinds of problems potentially with that. So we went to work, like I say, using working with the medical advisory board that we put together to say what would be the way to do this. And so where we have gone with it now is a number of things. Firstly, we created a device that delivers 95% UVB and 5% UVA. You still want some A. There's good in UVA. You just want too much of it. And so that's the first piece. The second piece is keeping the dosage consistent. And the products that have been out there up to today are what I would call typically rather indiscriminate. And that is there's just a bulb, and it's typically a fluorescent type bulb that you'll stand in front of or sit in front of with bare skin. And the challenge with that is you have no measurement of distance. You don't want UVB in your eyes, so you should for sure, if you're in the front of a light like that, make sure you wear eye protection and all of that. So we started right away to say, how do we get the most skin in front of this where we can control all that? So
yeah.
the device we have, you press against it. It's a housing that you press against. It's 10.5 inches wide and it's 9 inches high. And it's the exact distance from the LED light card that's in there that we developed. And we know the exact distance. We measure in 9 places in that 10 by 9.5 space. The engineers measure the dosage in 9 places within that, and they're identical. And so we're delivering a totally consistent dosage of UVB light that doesn't shine in your eyes. We treat the lower portion of your abdomen and just above your waistline and below your breast line. And then you turn around and you treat your back on bare skin. And people say, well, why that area? And they'll make a guess and say, well, because there's so many organs behind there and whatnot. You say, no, it's not that. It doesn't penetrate into your skin. It's literally on the surface of your skin, and your skin creates the vitamin D. With this, it also creates serotonin, endorphins, BDNF, nitric oxide, which is your cardiovascular health. So you get a lot. You get the vitamin D, which is the big deal, but then you get all these other benefits as well. Really, really important. So it was a 3-year journey and several $1 million to get it to the point where we had what we call a precision engineering device that would deliver these benefits to people.
So who's been a hero for you? Who's been an inspiration for you in your work?
Wow, great, great question. Certainly the wellness, the wellness professionals that have been helping people here for years. People like Peter Attia, people like Gary Brecka, people like the folks out there that are just really helping people get beyond, the current medicine as we know is super helpful if you've got a very specific problem you've come up with. Well, let's take an obvious example. You break your leg. Our medical system is awesome. They're going to fix that up. And if you need a pin in it or surgery, they're going to take care of it. It's going to be wonderful. But if you go there just feeling, you know what, I don't know if I'm feeling as good as I could be. They're not very good at that.
Yeah.
And you got to get into the functional medicine people and the naturopaths and the folks that really know how to dig down deeper into what we have. Like I say, all right into the cells of our body to say, okay, well, you need to provide a little different fuel, or you should be doing this or that. And let's work on building our health and disease will disappear. A little different model, well, quite a different model.
Yeah. So what was the first client that you helped? What was the moment after you brought the product to the public where you saw the results and you felt like this is it. This is what I need to be doing with my life. It makes sense.
There are about 1 in 4 people that cannot process, absorb, assimilate oral vitamin D. Because we have to look at, okay, if vitamin D is so great, how do we make sure we get it? And there's really only a handful of ways to do that. We've already talked about sunshine. If you can figure out how to get out in the sun at the right time for the right amount without burning, you can get some vitamin D, you can get all these other benefits. Very, very challenging for obvious reasons. The first one is that the dermatologists are going to tell you really be careful with that because obviously you can't wear sunscreen because it'll block all the benefits.
Yeah.
So that's very, very challenging. So sunshine, the other part of it is it's only midday. Most people don't know that.
Yeah.
So I don't know what other phones do, but mine, which is an iPhone, if I look on the weather, if I scroll down, it'll show me the UV index at
Yeah.
any given time. Well, the UV index has to be 3 or higher for you to get vitamin D and these other benefits. And so the challenge with sunshine is very clear. Even here in Arizona, where I am, it's only midday. Now, if you happen to be north of the 35th, which is Las Vegas roughly and Atlanta roughly, and north of that, if you're north of that, right starting about now, here we are in what are we, in mid-October kind of thing, or getting toward the end of October. Um, there's none. There isn't a day that you have UV index high enough. And the rule of thumb is if your shadow is longer, it's because of the angle of the sun. If your shadow is longer than you are tall, you're getting no vitamin D.
Gotcha.
So very challenging from sunshine. The next piece is, can I get it from food? And the answer is just a tiny bit.
Yeah.
Line caught, uh, oily fish, shiitake mushrooms, apparently reindeer meat, some red meat, there's some. But if you were very, very careful about everything you ate, the most you would get would be 10 to maybe as high as 20% of what you really do require to get your D up. So food's not a really great option for you. So you kind of come down to oral supplements, which is where we've really hung our hat. Well, the challenge with that is, like I say, 1 in 4 people don't get anything. And everybody else gets some vitamin D that'll do some good for them, but they still won't get all these other benefits that we've talked about. And the studies have shown that you also won't get the increase in your immunity that you'll get from light, which, just to be clear, our LED light that we have is identical to the UVB that you get from the sun. So we are dealing with, the same thing, but in a better proportion. So in other words, we're giving, healthy sunshine without the bad part.
Yeah. So
So
today in Kansas City, we're at a 3. You probably can't see it. So we got a pretty good, people should run out here in Kansas City if they have the chance.
get out there for a little bit. Yeah,
That's it.
exactly.
For
And
sure.
you got to have your shirt off though, and
Right.
which
Yeah.
which is really interesting. Somebody was telling me the other day that they've noticed that there's more people running or out there walking without their shirt on, and they were asking me, what's that all about? And I said, it's somebody that knows what they're doing.
Yeah.
Like
So
that's
true.
it's a good thing. It's
Yeah.
smart.
Yeah, totally it is. So let me ask you this. What is it that gets you up every day that motivates you to do this work that's changing so many lives, but also to evolve as a human being yourself? What is that collective gas in your tank every day?
First part of that is as far as the fact that when I get up in the morning, I know that I've got, because we've just released this product, by the way, this device, and so we've got an awful lot of people to talk to. So that's a pretty big motivation to say we got to get the word out there. And this, I appreciate you having a curiosity about this to bring this to your listeners and
Yeah.
your viewers. But it's the idea that the first thing we hear from people after they even have a few treatments quite often is, you know what, I'm sleeping better already. Well, that'd be the serotonin, that
Yeah.
they're getting from it. Uh, Others will say, I've got more energy. Or a lady said to me, my husband tells me I've got way more energy already, and stuff like that. I got a phone call the other day from a fellow that's 82 years old, and he got our device, and I don't even think he'd had it a week. And he said, you know what? I'm riding my bike again. He
Nice.
couldn't ride his bike anymore, which he loves to do. Couldn't do it anymore because his balance wasn't as good, his stability wasn't as solid. Then, kind of midterm, we know that people won't get colds and flu as often. You can never say never in terms of any of this because if somebody's got a really contagious situation, and you're next to them, chances are that you know, you're you're gonna get something, but it shouldn't last long. Like we saw with COVID, that people that had a high vitamin D level were not, they certainly weren't in the group that had really serious illness or died, but typically just didn't have it nearly as bad as those that had less immunity. So there are many studies that have shown, in fact, I think it's 40 some studies that have shown through, and these are clinical trials through the FDA with big pharma trying to prove that oral vitamin D will increase your immune system, and they've failed. It doesn't increase it like light does. We were designed to get our vitamin D from light. That's just how we were designed in the very first place. So I
Yeah.
get up in the morning thinking, if I can help somebody avoid, if we could help one person avoid some of these really terrible diseases because they had their D high for a long, long time, that would be worth it. That'd be incredible. And like I say, we know way too many people that have had some of these problems that had we known, and it's not had you known a year sooner, it's like had you known 20 years sooner, 30
Yeah.
years sooner. So this is a commitment for life. The one of the big advantages with this device is that the treatment time is only 2 minutes front, 2 minutes back. In fact, 1 to 2 minutes, depending on your skin type. So
Yeah.
it's all driven by an app. So the first thing people do is download the app, fill out a little questionnaire to get their Fitzpatrick skin test taken care of so that we know their skin type. And then that'll deliver the dosage that they can have on their skin type. And in a 1 to 2 minute treatment front, 1 to 2 minutes on the back, they're getting the equivalent of 2 to 4 hours of healthy sunshine without the bad part.
Wow.
Like it's
So
so efficient.
absolutely it is. So of everything that you've done professionally in your life, what are you the proudest of?
This, without
Yeah.
a question. Like I say, I'm a serial entrepreneur, and I my first businesses were restaurants, which quite honestly I really enjoyed as a young man. That was really good. We had about I think 17 of them over the years, and had everything from steak and lobster to fast food and everything in between. And it was really gratifying to do a good job for people. We were fortunate, made really really good money at it. We were good at it, and it worked out very very well. But then about mid-career here, I transitioned to doing a bunch of other things from real estate development, apartments, condos, condo conversions, all that kind of thing. I've also been in retail, manufacturing, a bunch of different things, and land development. And overall, that time period, was fortunate to have some good successes. A couple of boot prints on my butt, by the way, as well. But this when we saw this and started to get into it and started to understand what could be done with this is a game changer. This is a big deal. So that's where, like I say, when we get together with people and they make that commitment and say, I'm just going to do this, and I want to bring this to my family. I want to tell my friends about this, get people reading. I encourage people to go to our website and just look at FAQs, kind of thing to see, well, what is the big deal behind all this? And so I encourage people to do that. And this is a real potential game changer for those that get committed because there's so many people. You start right off the bat. one in four can't get vitamin D almost any way. You know, even if they live north of 35th, they're kind of hooped on the sun for a good part of the year.
Yeah.
We know they can't get it from their food, and if they can't absorb oral, where are they going to get their vitamin D? And without it, there's way too many bad things that happen.
Yeah, for sure. So, as the man behind this product, and in general, everyone has a perception of you, family, friends, clients, everyone that gets your product, but you ultimately run the show. What's your perception of you? Who do you think you are?
Well, I run it with my co-founder Scott Hansberry, so he's an important part here as well.
Sure.
But my part of it really is, obviously because I like it the best. I'm probably that is where I'm better at, and that really is getting word out, talking to people, and overseeing the marketing side of it, and the getting the word out to people, and I love it for that reason. That obviously I'm excited about it for the fact that it helps so many people.
So, let's get to the good business. If anyone wants to reach out, get the FAQs, purchase any of the good business, reach out to you. How do they do that?
The website is enyrgy.com, ENYRGY.com. And there's some great, like I say, great information there on health, wellness, the FAQs, all the rest of it. And then if they go to the shop page, if they want to buy the thing, they can also compliments of you. We've got a guy here that negotiates very hard, and thanks to you, like again, we're happy to give a discount based on your following here, and
Sure.
they can use your affiliate link, and if they don't for some reason have that, they can use a discount code which is famous 20, capital F, so uppercase F, lowercase for the rest of the word famous, FAMOUS, and the numbers 220. That's going to give them a 20% discount. Compliments of you. We don't necessarily always go that high, but appreciate what you're doing here, and good negotiating on your part. So famous 20, give them a 20% discount when they go to take a look at that device. Uh, so that's a good amount. Just again, it's 3,442 is the amount price, but then they get their 20% off.
Excellent. I will have all of this in the show notes. David, this has been fascinating. Thank you so much for your story. Thank you for your time today. And I appreciate it, man. Best of luck with everything.
Joe, thanks so much for the work that you're doing here, and really appreciate this. Also, just want to add one more thing if I can.
Yes, sir.
People often ask, how long will this last? And because this is LED technology, people are pretty familiar that LED lights last a long time. This is no different. This lasts 10,000 hours, which if you divide that, even if you're at the maximum treatment time of 4 minutes, it's 150,000 treatments. So I don't think
Wow.
probably not gonna outlive the usefulness of this light.
Yeah, that's wonderful. Absolutely wonderful. David, thank you again. I really appreciate it.
Thank you, Joe. My
Best of
pleasure.
luck. Take care.